Hello and welcome to my review of Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War as a veteran of the series and all-round Call of Duty fanatic. Let's talk about the various things in this game. First things first though, I do think the game has got significantly better from alpha to beta, which is a good thing. There has been a lot of people in the past say that alphas and betas are now just the release game, but tuning has clearly happened. The most dramatic of which, I think, is the sliding mechanic for realistically when I play or at a slightly competitive level. Obviously I'm not as good as the pros, but the sliding mechanic was clearly an issue. It was too fast, too long, and it didn't really make an awful lot of sense because you just have people kind of sliding out of corners at about max 7 and taking you down. The way it is at the moment does make the game feel way more grounded, and that's a great thing for the game right now. Another thing that I will say about Call of Duty Cold War is that I think it is one of these games where, unlike Modern Warfare, playing pubs feels more comfortable for different game styles. I feel like run and gun was punished a bit more in Modern Warfare than Cold War, and here if you want to run and gun, you are able to. The MP5 is obviously a great weapon at the moment, and I suspect it will be balanced at some point in the future, as you'll see an awful lot of it in pubs. But it is not the only gun in pubs. You are seeing a lot of assault rifles and the occasional sniper as well. These all add up to making the game feel more like a traditional Call of Duty for me at the very least. It is allowing people to either sit back and do some serious work with the assault rifles, or run and gun, or snipe, and it's all quite balanced in how it's going down. And one of the ways you can tell that this is at least slightly true is the amount of different guns that are being used in publics right now. Now, I don't play a lot of publics. I'm not the biggest fan of them. I've been playing competitive games for a long time now, and that's how I choose to play Call of Duty. But when I do play publics, I am seeing things like the AK, the XM4, the M16, the AUG at the moment. You've got the FAMAS being used for heavily as well, the MP5, and then the rest of the guns, there's maybe a smidgen of them. But just to have that much variety out of the gate speaks volumes about people being comfortable using different weapons. And that's a great thing for it as well. I will say as well that the amount of attachments in this game can be taken as a positive and a negative. Positive that you do have the choice, negative that there are so many that it can be difficult for casual players to just jump in and enjoy them because you are putting 1,000 different things on your gun. All look pretty similar in their different slots, but they have made a significant improvement by actually adding the real statistics of what you are changing. You get percentage-based changes and you can look up what those numbers do. This is a first for Call of Duty. It allows you to really tailor what you want with the gun and figure out what you are actually changing, rather than the old style of just having the stat bars that you never really knew what they meant. Whether or not this changes in future Call of Duties will remain to be seen, but for now it is a positive change. The next main thing we really need to talk about in Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is, of course, the maps. The game has only launched with a limited set of maps, 8 maps this time around. The thing being is that, of course, this time we actually do get free map updates over time. It is starting to feel like Call of Duty will always launch with a small amount of maps and then be drip-fed to us back over time, almost as a free thing, but realistically in old games we used to get more anyway, so It's kind of a pick your poison. People didn't like paying for DLC maps, so they changed their business model. It is what it is, and I suspect it will continue to be this way. My biggest issue with the maps at the moment is probably competitive-wise, people trying to figure out roughly whether or not these will work for competitive, and how much we will actually get use out of these. Public-wise, they're pretty good, right? I actually don't mind the maps. One of the best things I can say about these maps is that they aren't Modern Warfare maps, and some of you may not like to hear that, but truthfully, I think the lack of verticality, while there is still some, it is not unobtainable. It is not running out to check every window, to worry about it. And it goes back to my point about this game feels more balanced for run and gun as well as hiding in a corner and doing what you want. I don't run out into a space and think that there are 400 different places that an enemy could be hiding, meaning that I have to take my time or basically just camp it up. These maps feel more like traditional, fast-paced Call of Duty maps with great flow. Whether or not that's just because Treyarch know what they're doing and have gone back to a very much 3-lane map design and have pretty much made these feel like Call of Duty maps. Like I said, the maps we do have, a lot of them I quite like. I don't know how many of them played competitively very well recently. I've played a few competitive games on this at the moment, and it's difficult for me to judge because, truthfully, I'm still finding my way around these maps when I have to do the rotations and play hardpoint properly. I will say I do think the spawns seem very easy to flip on this game. when I've been playing some of these maps, it's almost playing with friends. We just call the flips well in advance because we know it's going to happen. And I'm wondering whether or not it's to do with the map design that you can see quite far towards the back of these maps, and that closes off the spawns sooner than they would do, especially on Modern Warfare, which famously had those sticky spawns you couldn't flip out. But truthfully, I am quite happy with the maps. I don't see any real big problem with them, and I am looking forward to see how they develop as more come out. I hope the DLCs are very, very good. I hope they get adopted very, very quickly into competitive, but I'm not really mad. Other than the fact there could be more. I know some people are at the moment complaining about some of the maps, and let's face it, Call of Duty players always do, but these maps, compared to Modern Warfare, I take these maps every day. Now, let's move on to something that is controversial and people haven't been happy about on the timeline of my Twitter recently. It is, of course, going to be the score streaks. Now, in this game, unlike previous games, your score streaks do not reset upon death. They are just a lot more expensive. When you start getting streaks, you get multipliers, essentially, to get these points up. It does mean that if you have a bit of a streaky game, you're more likely to unlock your higher score streaks, but it also means that there could be more score streaks on the map because they kind of continue on depending. I don't mind this system. I don't hate it. Competitive-wise, I don't think it's going to be in regardless. I can already see people not agreeing to it. I think it's been taken out in GB. But for publics, it's not terrible. Like, I play fairly decently myself. I've had some pretty streaky games, and I don't always get my top-tier kill streaks. It's not something in every single one. You do see maybe a little bit more, but people were comparing this to back, like, when it used to be support streaks. I think it was in Modern Warfare 2 or 3, and they were frequent and constantly and everywhere. Haven't really had that experience in this game. I'm not going to lie to you. It does seem if maybe it's just at my elo in the skill-based matchmaking, which we'll get onto, that it seems like people are trading out a lot more. You don't get it as often. Still get most of them, I'll be honest with you. I always get my UAV come up at some point, but that would pretty much happen anyway. So I think realistically, it's not a terrible system. I know that some people are going to see this and probably instantly dislike the video, but for me, it just means that I can play a little bit more aggressive. I don't have to wait and camp for a streak if I don't want to. It means I can continue to push more. It does enable that run and gun thing again, like I've been talking about. The fact that you can actually go and do some work onto this map without having to hide in a corner, pre-aiming with your silenced weapon and your claymores and going, oh, I'm going to get me helicopter eventually. This is a great change, right? Obviously, some people aren't going to like it. They think there's more score streaks in it, and they don't like score streaks at all. Well, you can run anti-score streaks. You can run SAM turrets to take down things very, very quickly in this game. It's not as big of a deal as I think some people are making it out to be. Gun balancing is always going to change as game goes on. I'm sure we're going to see things like the M16 be nerfed, the MP5 be nerfed. A few other guns. I know the AUG's been used a little bit recently as well. But that's all going to change as game goes on. It's not game breaking. It really doesn't go into the negative of my review. For me, this is a very, very good Call of Duty. I think the only big negative that other people are talking about at the moment is skill-based matchmaking, and it is a little bit of a problem realistically for people who want to play well and maybe have some easier games and have some harder games, and I kind of agree with it, right? I actually ended up playing some competitive games, as I mentioned earlier on, and they were actually easier than the publics I was playing in. Speaks volumes. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. It's made to continue with engagement. I've got a video on skill-based matchmaking and why it is the way it is as well. So it's not going anywhere. So let's move on and talk a little bit about zombies. Okay, let's talk about zombies. Now, not the biggest zombie player in the world. I used to play the old ones religiously. The newer ones have been a bit too complicated for me, and pretty much seems the case here. Although I will say, jumping into the zombies for the first time and playing a few games of it was quite refreshing, you know, like having this dark aspect with the flashlights on the gun and stuff I thought was fantastic. It wasn't too difficult for me to navigate. Now with a minimap with everything on, I don't know how long that's been in the game. Like I said, I've not been the biggest zombie player in the world, but I really enjoyed it. It had these wide open areas where you feel pretty safe, like out by the plane and stuff, and then when you go indoors, I actually got a little bit scared. I was like, oh wait a minute, there's zombies pouring out of everywhere at the start of a round, and I'm struggling to fight them all off by myself, and I have no room to move, and it's a bit atmospheric, and there's things always going on, from trials you can activate to getting your perks, to getting your pack-a-punch. The people I were with seemed to know what they were doing, by the way, because we went downstairs to the anomaly, and we did all this kind of crazy stuff. But I tell you something, I think this is probably the best zombies I've played in a few years, and I'm sure if there are zombie aficionados out there, they might disagree, but I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to jumping into it with a team and figuring it out even more. But it was refreshing for me. It felt like not a different zombies, because it's still core zombies at the end, but a game I can get on board with, jump in, have a casual time. You can exfil. I played the 20-round game where you can kind of get out early, which I thought was a great addition to it because you can exfil at level 10. Didn't do that on this run because I was kind of experimenting and seeing what was happening, but with the abilities and all the stuff you can buy and the mystery box and everything that made zombies great, as well with these kind of new aspects with, you know, the trials, like I said, I thought was a great amount of fun. You know, how many people to kill people in a certain area, do your hip fires. Really actually quite enjoyed it. Zombies is something I could really recommend on this game. Like I said, it had one of those ones where I actually got a slight panic at level 10 because I realised very quickly I have to get out of this enclosed area, get to more open ground to have a chance at taking down these swarms of zombies that were coming. And it felt like there were more zombies than ever on this game in comparison to previous games. But I won't speak too much on zombies because I'm not a zombies expert. Let's talk a little bit about the campaign. Okay, the Call of Duty campaign is, as always, something they sold the game heavily on. This year's no exception. We've seen plenty of art for it, and they're really playing into this Cold War, Black Ops sort of perspective, going back to some of the old storylines, and that really engages me because I do enjoy that kind of campaign's almost relaxing for me to just kind of go through it, enjoy the outrageous set pieces and the wonderful visuals, and basically just cutting down wave and wave of enemies. It's not really a lot of the time a kind of brain switch on compared to the multiplayer, but it's enjoyable. Like I said, I played through a couple of missions of this one, and I was getting a bit engaged with enjoying, you know, the characters and the way that it was progressing. And as we can see here, one of the ridiculous set pieces, we are going to chase down a plane for about 25 minutes. They've got the Fast and Furious runway back into this one. But, you know, it's one of these things where I think the campaign for me has been just an option in previous years. It's never something I've really cared too much about. And this year I actually want to play it. And when I did jump in to play it for a little bit to kind of review it and see how it went down, I was engaged enough to want to play more. I actually wanted to play more campaign to see where it was going, to enjoy this, because a lot of the times the campaign just devolves into run into this room, kill these people, run into the next room, kill those people. At least for the few missions I sort of played, it felt different. It starts off with a chase that goes into another kind of crazy car chase here. You get to take down a plane, you kind of keep just throwing ammo everywhere, and that for me, it's pretty good. It's nothing like super out of the normal unless there's something further going on, which I haven't actually ended up seeing yet as we go through the campaign, but it's pretty good. I think this is probably one of the better campaigns of recent years. I can well advise you jump into and just enjoy it for a casual single-player experience. But that's my out-the-box review of Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. I've been Bryce. Thank you so much for listening and watching this. If you've got any opinions or comments below, please don't hesitate to put them in the comments. And we'll see you next time.